Hello and welcome to another one of our videos where today I'm going to be talking about the reason that people have sore backs in the morning, especially if there's someone with chronic pain usually, and why it's sort of the worst in the morning, because there's a specific reason why. So rest is very good when we have pain and we have an injury, and it doesn't matter what injury, because it allows the body to go through the healing process and send blood to the area to clean it out and to give it there's a reason that we have swelling, more or less. All right. So now, when it comes to back pain, this is sort of a rest. Too much of it can be a bad thing. All right. So obviously anyone dealing will know what I'm talking about. And first thing in the morning is always when their back is the worst, and it feels like every movement they make, they're like a robot. And some people just might even have trouble getting to sleep and even wake feeling if they haven't had a good rest at all. So just seems to be no relief from being awake and being asleep. But why is that the case? So well, firstly, if we sort of paint the picture of just how many times I have this discussion with people, this is why I thought this is a good video to bring up and give people a bit of information as to some of the strategies they should use. When you acknowledge just how common it is, so in Australia, where I am, 1 in 7 Australians report having a serious back problem. That's quite a lot. So it's 3 million people, and the total population is only 25 million. So that's quite a big chunk. So 2 in 5 have back problems, have difficulty with tasks. So that's it's almost nearly 1 in 2 really. And according to some of the latest research, it's ranked first in Australasia and New Zealand, and compared to 6th in the world. So, and like I said here, the only thing that's beats doctor visits are flus and cold. So it's ranked very highly in terms of how many people are going to suffer with it. So usually what we try to do when we're in pain is just try to get rid of it, and painkillers, and they can be very useful in the beginning when the inflammation's quite high. They're just not a great strategy ongoing, and they're not really getting rid of the problem. They're just allowing some of the process of healing inflammation to sort of be given a kickstart. But you've really got to find the cause of the problem for a solution. And like we're saying, rest is a very important part of that process in the beginning. But with back pain, it can actually be detrimental. And many other injuries, say you sprained your ankle, you really need to rest it and ice it and all that, some compression, elevation. But with back pain it's a little bit different, and we're going to explain why. So the main reason it's a bit different is that it all has to do with the disc. So when our instincts tell us to rest and not move, and we'll lie still, actually that with other injuries is a good thing. With back injuries it's often a bad thing, because what happens when we lie horizontal is that for long periods, the discs actually start to swell. So if I go back, you can see that's a healthy disc, and when you're moving poorly and you have poor movement strategies, and you're starting to pinch these, create damage to these discs, and you're ending up in these sort of areas here. When you start to lie horizontal, these discs will start to swell. All right. So and when these discs start to swell, then they start to touch the nerve. Alright, so then you're just lying still is making this go bigger and bigger and bigger, and the reason they swell is because they fill with fluid. So there's between each of these, where the discs are, they're basically packed with concentrated protein chains, and they love water, and the water is sort of how they get their nutrition. So they actually need it. So it's very important for the discs to get this. But when you lie for too long and you're already in a position like here where you're already creating issues from the way you move throughout the day, now your resting is going to be a problem. So can you see how you could end up in a vicious cycle of going around in constant pain from resting and not resting, because the way you move is creating the pain, and then when you're resting, the swelling creates more. So when the discs fill with fluid, they're really like water balloons ready to break. So there's a picture of a water balloon here, and I've got a picture here of the sciatic nerve, when this is where a lot of pain can be there. So it can refer down into the leg, numbness and all that sort of stuff going on. If you have a bulging disc, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about right now. and anything that touches a nerve is extremely painful. All right, so when we get up in the morning and our spines and we stand up and we start moving around, the fluid basically seeps out, and after an hour or two we start to feel a little bit better, and we start to get to our normal height. This is why people feel better after they get up and they're moving around a bit, and also explains why you're very stiff, because those discs are so swollen. Like I was saying, you really need this allowed to happen, because this is how the discs get their nutrition. They need that rest. It's just that you have to be mindful. If you have back pain, too much of it will be a bad thing. So you really need to move more, but you've got to be careful with how you move, because you might be creating more trouble from doing that too. So as we've said here, spine remains horizontal for too long. So 8 hours is probably about the longest you'd want to lie down, and throughout the day you'd want to be keeping moving. You don't want to lie still or sit still. That's also why it gets bad when you sit still for a long time as well, because they start to the inactivity starts to make it swell again. All right, so what can you do? What does this mean to you? What do you have to do about it? So, well, this is very important for exercise, in that you need to warm up. So this is where I see a lot of people do stretching when they first get out of bed, because they feel so stiff, and our instincts tell us to stretch because we're stiff. But it's actually probably the worst thing you can do, especially stretches like this is what I see, yoga poses. These are some of the worst things you could do for a back, where you're really flexing the lumbar spine, and this is where the discs are getting pushed out closer to the nerve. Remember, it's already close. Now the disc is swollen, it's pretty much touching it anyway. Something like this will guarantee that it'll put you in more trouble. So you really be careful with stretching. You really want to try and warm up the area more so than stretch. So type of movements that are, obviously walking is great. Areas that I might try to mobilize are the hips and the thoracic region. So here's a thoracic mobility drill. Here's a hip mobility drill, and really it's an exercise trying to teach you to bend correctly. This would be my preferred choice. This is a great stability drill for the hip, shoulder, and obviously the trunk here. This is a great one to really get the whole place to integrate a lot better, and getting good stiffness in the area where people with back pain usually don't have any. They're losing their stability and forcing the discs to move around too much. So there's a good video on our channel for about back pain warm-up, so I'll put in the link in the description here. I'd refer to that for some ideas on what type of a specific warm-up for back pain you could use. But most importantly, out of all this, you must learn to move correctly, because remember, it's not bad luck that you've got back pain. All right, there's a strategy that how you're moving that is very poor, that's set you up for this problem in the first place. Nothing to do with old age either. All right, this is the way that you've been moving. You're now paying a price for it. So you must learn to move correctly. That's really the secret behind it all. A good little quote here from Gray Cook. While some serious injuries are unavoidable and need surgical repair, we should do everything possible to build an injury buffer zone by training healthy movement. It's always better to bend than break, and strong, agile bodies bend better than weak, stiff bodies. So, really just telling you to learn how to move properly and then try to strengthen. That's really the answer most people are looking for. So, in summary, while rest is great and it's a very important process in healing inflammation, we must recognise that our spine needs movement. Resting for too long only serves to increase your pain. You must warm up in the mornings. Do not stretch until later in the day. And when you do stretch, it should be hips and thoracic region. They're probably the two main areas. Horse stance is an excellent drill. I highly encourage anyone with back pain to use it. Walking obviously is great as well. Never stretch your back, especially into lumbar flexion, so pulling your knees to your chest, all that sort of stuff. Just avoid all that. Like I said, instead focus on the hips and thoracic region. Moving more is not a good strategy either if your movement is poor, so this will only exacerbate your problem. So you must identify your poor movements, dedicate time to correcting them, and then eventually strengthen those movements you've corrected, so that they can withstand loads and obviously have better endurance to hold themselves for long times. All right, that's really what the crux of all this comes back to. But I hope this video sort of explains to you the reasons why. If you just go back to the discs here, just picture that these discs starting to swell, and then like I say here, like it's a water balloon about ready to burst. That's what happens when you lie down. All right, so warm it up and you'll be fine, and you won't have any of these trouble. All right. If you want extra information about programs that we use for that, there's, again, I'll put it in the description, a link you can check out. There's some free reports and there's some advanced online programs you can download as well that can help you out. And I hope that video gives you some good information, and we'll see you on our next one.